Hello folks, I am back, and this time I'm here with a review of the Sauer P226 Mark 25 full size. But before we get to that, I'm going to talk about core essentials. If you need any type of belt needs for tactical or any other type of thing, you can go to Core Essentials website and get 10% off using my code Keenan10. It's capital Keanon and the number 10. It's all together, folks. So it's capital Keanon and the number 10 for that 10% discount that you will love. They not only have belts, they have other accessories, and I will be doing a review, and I want to thank Core Essentials for their patience on this review, but it will be coming soon. I just had to get some other parts. That gives you a little hint. So that will be coming soon. So let's go right at it with the P226 Mark 2025. And this is the firearm that started it all for me with the Sig Sauer. Basically, it was the 226. This is my favorite Sig, not to be confused with the 320s because I show a lot of them, but this is it. This is the P226 Mark 25, and I'm going to show clear. I just bumped the camera a little bit. And we know how YouTube can get, and someone questioned me, why do I keep doing this? It's because, yes, YouTube gets on my case if I don't. So as you see, this is empty. And let's go over some specs right away. Let's start with, it is a 9mm firearm. It comes with 3 15-round magazines, standard. It has Sig night sights on here. They call them the Sig Light night sights, which are very good. Also, its overall length is 7.7 inches and a weight of 34 ounces. Not too hefty for some people, and it's not really too light either. The sight radius is going to be 6.3 inches. It is a double action, single action firearm, which means the first shot is going to be a long pull. The second shot is going to be a shorter pull. Notice the reset is a little farther. I'll talk about that in a moment. And you'll get a second shot in single action. Now, the trigger is going to be in double action somewhere around 10 pounds. Now, one thing, a lot of people think 10 pounds is a lot, but for some good reason, Sig has made the triggers on these particular models very smooth. They're very smooth. It's not really that hard pull like you might get on a HK or something of that nature. But I like this better than the HK because of the smooth double action pull. The second pull is going to be a reasonable, let's say 4 to 5 pound pull and single action. Now, the one thing is you'll see there's a bit of take up and then there's your pull. And the one thing I made notice of is the reset. The reset comes out a little bit far, but right there, you hear the click right there, and you saw my finger jump a little bit. So that's where that reset is. Now, the reset to me isn't bad. Well, under firing conditions, you will not notice that reset, but being that far out. But there are other firearms. I do own a 226 TAC Ops, which is an enhanced version of this with the short reset trigger. And that short reset trigger is a very, very nice trigger. And one thing about the short reset trigger is it gives you a really, really short reset. I think its reset is somewhere like right there. But on this model, unfortunately, you don't have that. Getting back to that, you'll have a polymer grip here, meaning that this grip right here, I think Sig has improved this grip a little bit because the one on my TAC Ops is a little bit slippery in my opinion, but I think this one, I think they kind of like made it a little better where it's a little bit more grippy. Notice how the grip is like all one piece, and it comes swelled up right into here. It's all one piece. With your standard screwdriver, there are other grips on the market that you could put on here. One of the other things, it's carbon. The barrel is carbon steel. Now, I want you to look at this barrel really well. It's carbon steel, and if you look at the barrel right here, it looks like it has a recessed crown here, unlike the other standard P226s. Nice nice barrel right here. And my understanding from other sources, I heard that it's a chrome line barrel. So you're going to really get some really decent accuracy and also protection of wear on this particular barrel. As you see, steel, it is a metal or steel guide rod in here. The frame is hard anodized. It's hard coated anodized, excuse me. Now, one thing about its mission, that we all know the story about the Navy SEALs adopting this after they lost for the regular military contract. And one thing that SIG did was they did some type of coating inside, a hard anodized coating. So what will happen is, because we all know that the SEALs do these special missions and they're in saltwater conditions, etc. So this is one of the reasons to help protect against corrosion and whatever environment that they would have to encounter. One of the other things is it has the slide finish is a nitron finish coating on here. It's supposed to help with, let's say, scuffs or anything like that, but we know guns get beat up. It still will protect the firearm from other damages on the surface. And one thing is also that on this slide, not only has the coating, the slide material is steel, so it is stainless steel. So this is very well when it comes to its machine work and the materials that they use. The frame is alloy. Now, one of the things is, one thing about alloy, back in the day when I used to have firearms in the 90s, most of the firearms were very heavy. So alloy was our version of polymer at that time. A lot of companies like Smith & Wesson with the 5906 and 6906 had these type of alloy frames. So we were all jumping for joy, just like people nowadays are into the polymer firearms. And that's what makes this, to me, a little special, because it was big technology for its day. Now, getting into other features, you'll see one of the things is a decocker, another big thing. Now, on let's say the M9s or Beretta 92s, they used to have a decocker that was also a safety. So the one problem that most servicemen had was when they would decock their firearms, they have to remember to bring it off safe to fire, to get it back into action. With the SIG Sauer, all you have to do is bring this down and the decocker pops right back up. A lot of decockers, where they call it a decocker, is when they let the hammer down and internally there's like a block that's inside that when you put the decocker safety down, you'll see a block sort of that will kind of like come up, blocking the hammer from the firing pin at that point. I'm not sure if I said that right, but hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. But with the SIG Sauer, when you decock it, it comes down and brings the hammer down safely and leaving a little bit of a gap there. A lot of people are worried that if you drop this, will the firearm go off? As you see, it will not move forward unless you pull the trigger. One of the other features is the slide lock or slide release. Now, one of the things is it's a negative to some people is a lot of times during firing, a lot of people will accidentally hold their thumb over the slide release or slide lock, and what will happen is sometimes it will go forward without locking. It will go forward without locking back on the last round. That is one of the negatives. So you really have to train your thumb how to be out of the way if you're holding this way or if you're holding your thumb up. It's basically a training issue. But I don't look at it as a negative because I've been shooting 226s for such a long time. It's a non-issue for me. One of the other features on this that is different from any other 226 than the Mark 25 version is it has a 1913 rail. This is a real 1913 rail. As you see with the real one, it's straight and it is flat. Excuse me for the camera bump again. It is flat on the bottom, so you can see it's flat. Now, on the other SIG firearms, 226s and so forth, you'll notice that it's rounded. So you'll notice that where it's flat here, it's somewhat rounded. Even though it does work as a pick rail, they call that the SIG rail, these are what people really like. They really like the flat 1913 official rail where you could put lights or lasers or what have you. One of the other things you notice on the Mark 25 is you'll see this, I guess you call it a QR code. That's basically for, I guess, military inventory and so forth. That's what that is there. And then, of course, sometimes the Mark 25 is known as the Navy edition or Navy SEAL edition because you see that anchor on here. So the major difference when you want to think about this is pretty much the rail and also the way it's coated so it can be used in different environments. Let's get to the shooting portion real quick. I shot this firearm on 2 range sessions on the same day. Now, if you can see this very well, these shots that were outside, I shot it from double action in the beginning because I always want to keep in training mode using a double action before I get to single action. So it's very good to at least, a lot of people will load the firearm and leave it in single action. Double action, you might want to start off with that to keep in practice. This is anywhere from 7 to 20 yards. I usually like to stretch out to 20 yards. And as you see here, this is a double action pull right here. It went off. This is another mistake over here. This is probably about maybe anywhere from 15 to 20. And I remember this is a double action pull. This was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 yards. So I like to try to keep my skills up and while I'm shooting. And this is my second range session. My second range session, this is the same day, but probably about 3 hours apart. I did a little better. I like to try to keep everything in the 9 ring area. And I try to do that anywhere from 7 to 20 yards. So as you see with 20 yards, I tried to aim a little bit higher because my vision was getting next to me. So I ended up going a little high and of course another double action pull right there. One of the things about a lot of people are talking about the high borax. One thing I would like to tell people about that is at certain distances for me, the way I do my shooting is at closer distances, I will take the sights and split it here. At longer distances, I will raise that firearm up, particularly on the SIGs, where I would pretty much cover that area where I won't see it too much and just raise it up slightly so I can stay basically within range. Well, pretty much I said it all on this video. I don't want this to get too long because I'm running into 15 minutes. But I'd just like to say this is what got me into SIGs. I love this firearm. I have other 226s, but this is the base. This is made as a combat firearm, not a safe queen. I will carry this, and there's nothing that says you can't carry this firearm. With that said, happy shooting, stay safe, hashtag 2A.